Well, welcome everyone. I'm very excited to be hosting the show today. And I want to invite all of you to put your feet on the floor and rest your hands on your legs with your palms up and close your eyes and take a deep breath and settle into that presence that adores us, is as close as our heartbeat and as near as our breath. The presence that loves us unconditionally is always with us, inviting us to be one with it. Let us rest quietly in this love for a moment before we begin. Today we'll be reviewing lesson 8 through 14. And I just want to say that I have recently gotten all of the Journey Through the Workbook with Ken Wapnick, and it is the most wonderful tool for me personally. And I wrote down just a few little thoughts about lesson 8 to begin with. And Ken says that Jesus is here introducing the idea that what we see outside comes from what we think inside. A major theme of the text, projection makes perception. He further states what we believe and have made real about ourselves within, whether as children of the ego or children of God, will be directly reflected in what we perceive outside, because the inner and the outer are the same. So, does anyone want to comment on that or anything from chapter 8? Okay, Susan?
Well, I just want to say that I have found this same text or workbook and text, there are two sets, the text and where he does both, the workbook and the text. The Ken Wapnick stuff has really helped make it more accessible for me. Like I started kind of like jumping halfway up in the air, I guess, by starting on day 310 last year with you guys. So it's great to start from the beginning and to have the discussion that Ken does on each of the days has really helped me a lot. And so I just wanted to give that up to anybody who feels like they're obtuse and can't get it. I was feeling that way. It was a combination of starting at day 310 without any other knowledge, and also that I was just doing the book. And it's the change in the ability to integrate the practice and the lessons is so different by having starting on day 1 and building in a logical way, but also the Ken Wapnick insights.
Yes.
That's all I had to say.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Maggie?
I'll pop in and just echo that. It like delights me so much that a few of you are reading that this time around. And I felt very much like that, Susan, where I did the workbook while being a student of Ken's, not physically in person, but having been listening to him and reading books of his for a long time. I went through the workbook once without those Journey Through the Workbook books, and I got a lot out of it. But the second time I did it, and I did it with those particular books, it just took it to such a level, and it helped me to really feel more comfortable with parts of the text that I had felt like I really couldn't grasp, that were a little too metaphorical or too well, I don't know. There's just some parts of the text that I just felt like I couldn't really understand what was being said, even after I'd been studying it for years. But then to read his explanations and to bring some of those things together, it was so helpful. And this time around, my husband and I purchased the audio version of that.
Mhm.
And that is so helpful right now too, because I found sometimes sometimes his description of the lesson is a good like 10, 12 pages, right?
Yeah.
Especially as you get further into it. And I mean, as I was reading them on my own, there'd be times where I couldn't read the whole thing. It was like my brain just couldn't even take it all in. And so to do my practice, sometimes I was fortunately at that time in my life, I had a lot of time to devote to this, but it would take me sometimes an hour just to read the lesson, just to read all of his description about it, because my mind would keep getting distracted or wandering and I'd have to go back. But boy, when you get to listen to the audio, it lets it get in there, even as part of you isn't totally getting it, maybe it's still the words are at least getting in. And so
Yeah.
that's a new experience for me this time around too. But thank you for sharing that, Sharon.
Yeah. I'm curious, does anyone else get sleepy? It's amazing to me. And I know that's the ego going, you want to go to sleep. You want to go to sleep. Anyway, Peter.
You know, I was just going to say I have the MP3s for the workbook too, and highly recommended.
Yeah, I love actually reading along with his workbook as I'm listening to his audio of the workbook. And it's those two together, somehow seeing it and hearing it at the same time is a really deeper experience for me also. You know, so
Yeah, Ken's MP3s, Journey Through the Workbook. That's what I was
yeah.
referring to.
Yeah, yes, me too. I have
Yeah.
both, like Maggie does also. So does anyone have anything else they want to say before I share my screen?
When I brought people doing filthy books. You're gonna shut up.
Okay. I don't know who this is. How do I,
So if you're in a fire.
how do I get rid of Zoom user? Okay, well, now they're on.
Johanna muted them.
Oh,
Johanna,
good.
you were muted just now when you tried to say something, Johanna.
Okay.
Yes, I muted the Zoom user.
How did that happen? How did
I
they
don't
get
know. They can just use the link in a Facebook group. It's no problem. But then if they're not serious, they'll start arguing, and I have to mute them. That's all there is to it.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. I've never experienced that before on any Zoom call, so that was interesting.
Me neither. Yeah.
Okay, so I can share my screen. I wonder which screen it will share, because I do have. Oh, okay. Let me see which. That's strange. Okay, that didn't work. Now I have on one screen, I have lesson 8, and I'm not sure why that is not coming up when I click share screen.
Yeah, I wouldn't know either.
You get an option, Sharon, when you hit share screen, it should pull up
Various
rectangles.
rectangles. Yeah.
If you've got more than one monitor, it'll show the different monitors, but it'll also show you different tabs. Like
Yeah,
in the browser.
oh, here I see. Share that screen.
There you go.
Yay, good. Let me get this over a little bit. So, okay. So, this is lesson 8, and does anyone want to comment on anything that came up for them in lesson 8?
Can you show the title again, please?
Okay, yeah, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. So let me see. I think I brought something up. in lesson 8, I said, Ken says Jesus is here introducing the idea that what we see outside comes from what we think inside, a major theme of the text. Projection makes perception. He further states that what we believe and have made real about ourselves within, whether as children of the ego or children of God, will be directly reflected in what we perceive outside, because the inner and the outer are the same. And I think I already read that part. So if you want, we can go on to lesson 9.
Can I just say something, Sharon?
Sure. Yeah.
Just that the last 2 sentences of this first paragraph here, just your mind cannot grasp the present, which is the only time there is. It therefore cannot understand time and cannot, in fact, understand anything. I mean, I just like that a lot. Or Jesus really just doesn't sugarcoat it at all. Like, you do not understand anything.
Right. And where is that in, I'm scrolling, where is?
Right in that first paragraph, the
Which
last 2 sentences, so sentence 5 and 6.
Uh-huh. These. Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. Johanna?
Yeah, it's interesting that Maggie focuses on those 2 sentences. Because, you know, the New Age movement is so full of the power of now and the mindfulness and be with it. And here we are told that we cannot even grasp the present.
Yeah.
And I wonder, should we try? What do you think, Maggie?
See, to me, I like it because I like that it's giving me, like, don't try, just stop trying. And as a therapist, as someone who's spent a lot of my life trying to understand my experience and the experience of others, it's one of the things that the Course brings to me that brings such relief is this: you can't understand it. That's why you haven't been able to understand it so far, and stop trying. You're not going to. I just find that very relieving.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that Ken says quite often is, if this isn't bringing up terror inside you, then you're, I don't know that he says you're doing it wrong, but he sort of indicates that you're not getting it. And none of this brings up terror in me. And I don't know if it's because this is my 4th year of doing the daily lessons, and I so believe everything that the Course says. And I really know that this world, even though it looks so real, I mean, I can knock on the wall and it really feels real, that it's not. It absolutely isn't. And that's a joy to me. So I don't know, I may not have really gotten it yet, but I'm happy.
You just get to have some different experience with it. Sharon, I'm blown away by your experience with it, right? Because I spent over a decade scared. And so, like, for me at this point, those sentences are relieving now, but they were not relieving initially. And I don't know that it means you're not getting it, Sharon. It just, I don't know. You're having your own experience with it.
You know, doesn't this brings up a question for me anyway, to see what everybody thinks about this. Whether it's Ken or any of the other public teachers that are out there teaching the Course, I've seen statements similar to this one, not particularly for this particular lesson, but stating something very emphatically. And I'm not a scholar of the Course, so I haven't gone back and picked to find each one where it's located. But very often I will realize I don't have that particular experience myself. And oddly enough, I didn't question myself to say, "Ooh, are you wrong? Are you missing something?" I just kind of let it be and kind of witness itself to what was going on. Because the Course, it does say, I think it's the clarification in other places, that it's really not about the words or the explanations anyway. It's about the experience. So I guess when I get flummoxed by something like that, no matter who the teacher is, how credible they may be, it boils down to our individual experience, I believe. Anyway, thank you.
And Peter.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if we jump to lesson 9, the first paragraph, I think it sheds a little light on this discussion. I see nothing as it is now. This idea obviously follows from the preceding ones, but while you may be able to accept it intellectually, it is unlikely that it will mean anything to you as yet. However, understanding is not necessary at this point. In fact, recognition that you do not understand is a prerequisite for undoing your false ideas. These exercises are concerned with practice, not with understanding. You do not need to practice what you already understand. So I think one of the, just a sidetrack here a little bit, one of the quotes that I love from Ken is, if you think you like the course, you don't know what it's saying. And so I have gotten to the point after almost 30 years that I feel like I like the course, and I am beginning to understand what it's saying. So there is hope for me, at least. And I'll just say in terms of the larger picture, this whole idea of I see nothing as it is now, I see only the past, I don't really understand what time is, what time means. I'm just having experiences come in from other sources that corroborate all of that for me. So this really, especially this time around, this is the 4th or 5th time I'm doing the workbook, I do feel like there is this shift in perception, the shift in recognition that's coming from this whole idea that we don't live in the present. We don't even know what the present is. And so, so I'll stop there. That's my experience.
Yeah.
I like what Peter just said. I concur.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that. So, would anyone like to read the second paragraph? Maggie.
I would.
or whoever. Who was that? You, Andrew?
Yes, yeah, I could read it.
Okay, great.
It is difficult for the untrained mind to believe that what it seems to picture is not there. This idea can be quite disturbing and may meet with active resistance in any number of forms. Yet that does not preclude applying it. No more than that is required for any of these exercises. Each small step will clear a little of the darkness away, and understanding will finally come to lighten every corner of the mind that has been cleared of the debris that darkens it.
Mm-hmm. It's good that no more than that is required. I love that all we have to do is listen to it and practice it. Nothing more is asked of us. Just do it.
Yeah, I just would like to say that I'm enjoying these early lessons now. The first time I went through the workbook, I did it, from lesson 1 all the way through. And then the next couple times I did it, I started around lesson 30. I skipped the early lessons thinking that they wasn't necessary to go back over them, but really I'm enjoying doing them again.
Yeah, me too.
Shall I
Okay.
read paragraph 3?
Sure.
These exercises, for which 3 or 4 practice periods are sufficient, involve looking about you and applying the idea for the day to whatever you see, remembering the need for its indiscriminate application and the essential rule of excluding nothing. For example, I do not see this typewriter as it is now. I do not see this telephone as it is now. I do not see this arm as it is now.
Why don't you keep going?
Begin with things that are nearest you and then extend the range outward. I do not see that coat rack as it is now. I do not see that door as it is now. I do not see that face as it is now. It is emphasized again that while complete inclusion should not be attempted, specific exclusion must be avoided. Be sure you are honest with yourself in making this distinction. You may be tempted to obscure it.
Does anyone have anything to say about any of that before we go to the next lesson? Okay, I'm going to click the next lesson.
Hold on, yeah. Immediately when I read those examples, I go like, so what are they? What are they now? I don't see coat rack as it is now. So what is it now? I don't see the door as it is now. So what is it now? And I don't get an answer. So that's
thing.
Sorry?
I don't think it's anything. I don't think it's real.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
possibly.
it's an illusion.
It's a projection, right? It's a
Right. It's actually, though, I think it's an illusion of a coat rack. I mean, I don't think they're even.
Yeah, but then it would say, I do not see the illusory character of a coat rack or the illusory character of that door.
Yeah.
But apparently, as that door is now, so the door is now. Yes.
It might be energy, because what is life? What is spirit? It's not matter. It's something that we really don't understand, but life must be energy, and all is thought. I mean, everything that we perceive begins as a thought. So maybe it's energy. That's
Well,
just a theory.
I think energy is an illusion also, because energy changes, and anything that can change, as far as my understanding is that it isn't real, because only what's real is constant and can't change because there's only one.
So that's what the Course teaches. That's true. So perhaps the reason why these examples are here so clearly stated is to let us know that nothing that we see is as it really is.
Right.
And so these examples are just to bring that home.
Yeah.
That only the eternal is real, and the rest is just,
Projection.
Shades and mirrors. What's the expression?
Smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it says to me the key word is now, because we were just saying how we can't see the present. The minute you've spoken something, it's already the past, and the future hasn't come yet because you haven't said it yet. So the now is not seeable with physical eyes at all, because it represents that moment, that instant moment, which is eternity, actually, I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, thank you.
I think also he refers earlier, somewhere in the workbook, that he gives the example, if we saw the table as it truly was now, it would make us indescribably happy. The whole universe is contained in that table. So I don't know if I don't seem to be finding it here, the exact reference, but it's like, if I see something as it really is now, it will be looking past the illusion into the reality, and that will bring that sense of happiness, of joy, of I guess, later he says, God is in everything I see.
Yeah.
So perhaps if I see the table as it is now, I would see God, and I would be indescribably happy.
Yeah. I've heard of people who are perhaps further along the ladder towards salvation, that they will have moments where they're looking into a crowd and all of a sudden it's all light. And the course actually describes it somewhere that when that happens, the physical will just be a very thin veil through which reality will show itself. And so it's indescribable if you've never experienced it, as I haven't, to sort of approach that in your thought. It's impossible. So I'll just have to accept that I don't see things as they are now. And if they are upsetting, that is a consolation.
Yeah. Maggie.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything that's being said and agree with it. And Peter, I know what you're talking about, and I'm almost wondering if that's even in one of Ken's explanations about looking at the table and feeling indescribably happy. But
in lesson 12, I found it in the 5th paragraph of lesson 12.
We will have to skip there soon or make sure we make it there. But I was just going to say too, just one more thing about this, perhaps, is, the emphasis on not including or excluding anything specific. And I think Johanna kind of was saying this, just to apply it to all these things is just to really reinforce in our mind that it's applicable to everything universally, equally. If you look at the examples here, like, these are not particularly upsetting things. He's not trying to get us to say, I don't see my fear as it is right now. It's like a typewriter, my arm. I mean, we're going to come up on the lessons about neutrality soon too. And I think it's just, we can trick ourselves into thinking the typewriter is not anything I need to practice with because it's not upsetting me. But I think just to apply it across the board to everything, regardless of what we're feeling about it, is part of the practice too.
Yeah, I agree. I'm tempted to just jump right to, since we're talking about it.
Let's do it.
Let's
Go ahead.
It was, Peter, you said it was in 12, lesson 12?
It's at the end of the fifth paragraph in lesson 12.
You want to read that?
Sure. So lesson 12, I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. He says here, what is meaningless is neither good nor bad. Why then should a meaningless world upset you? If you could accept the world as meaningless, and here's the key, I think, and let the truth be written upon it for you, it would make you indescribably happy. But because it is meaningless, you are impelled to write upon it what you would have it be. It is this you see in it. It is this that is meaningless in truth. Beneath your words is written the word of God. The truth upsets you now, but when your words have been erased, you will see his. That is the ultimate purpose of these exercises. So the problem is what I see in it. I'm projecting my own meaning onto the world, and that's stopping me from seeing the truth. And thus in the meaninglessness, the truth comes through. And let the truth be written upon it for you. The problem is I think I know what everything means. I think I know what everything is for. I think I know who I am. I think I know what I'm doing. I think I know why I'm here. And that is a function of the ego, and that's what's blocking me from the experience of God. It's the remembrance of God that we're after here, because when we remember God, we'll remember who we are, what our relationship is. And that's when all of this disappears. He does say in different places in the book, Ken also says this, when I stop making the world real, when I stop paying attention to the things of the world, when I stop giving it my energy, it fades of its own accord. So I don't really have to do anything except stop paying attention to it as if it was real. Much, 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 much easier said than done. But I think that's kind of underlying all of this. There was one other thing I was going to say, but I'll let somebody else go, and then if I remember it, I'll raise my hand.
I don't see any of their hands up, so why don't you go ahead?
Because I'm still not remembering what I wanted to say.
Oh. Okay.
It'll come to me.
Okay.
Yeah, let's carry on.
Okay, so let's just go back to, I think we already did lesson 9. So then lesson 10, my thoughts do not mean anything. Ardith, would you like to read the first paragraph?
Oh, sure. My thoughts do not mean anything. This idea applies to all the thoughts of which you are aware or become aware in the practice periods. The reason the idea is applicable to all of them is that they are not your real thoughts. We have made this distinction before and will do so again. You have no basis for comparison as yet. When you do, you will have no doubt that what you once believed were your thoughts did not mean anything.
Does that bring up anything for anybody? Well, keep going, Ardith, if you would.
Sure. This is the second time we have used this kind of idea. The form is only slightly different. This time, the idea is introduced with my thoughts instead of these thoughts, and no link is made overtly with the things around you. The emphasis is now on the lack of reality of what you think you think.
I really liked that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maggie, you want to read paragraph 3?
Sure. This aspect of the correction process began with the idea that the thoughts of which you are aware are meaningless, outside rather than within, and then stressed their past rather than their present status. Now we are emphasizing that the presence of these thoughts means that you are not thinking. This is merely another way of repeating our earlier statement that your mind is really a blank. To recognize this is to recognize nothingness when you think you see it. As such, it is the prerequisite for vision.
What does that statement mean to all of you? I'm curious.
I'm guessing you mean that fourth sentence, to recognize this is to recognize nothingness when you think you see it.
Right.
So I'm trying to remember which one it was when he talked about the mind being a blank. That was earlier, but my understanding is that we're practicing recognizing that the things we think we're looking at are nothingness, and the things that we think we're thinking aren't being thought. So I don't know if that's too simplistic, but that's what it means to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Susan.
Well, I spend a lot of time on the boat, on the ocean. And so I got a clear image of being in a mind that's very foggy. So you can't see where islands are. You can't see the lay of the land or the lay of the ocean or whatever.
Susan, we can't see you. Could you redirect your phone, please?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, there you go. Well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yes. Yes.
Were you looking at my ceiling?
Your head.
I am really not good in the techno world. I'm an artist. And obviously not a digital artist. So yeah, no, that's what that's how I read it, is that if there's a fog bank, you can't see the ocean.
Uh-huh.
So to be able to see, the fog has to clear.
I think that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your camera snafu was just giving us a little representation of not being able to see you.
That's good.
Okay. Andrew, you want to read the 4th paragraph?
Sure. The exercises consist, as before, in searching your mind for all the thoughts that are available to you without selection or judgment. Try to avoid classification of any kind. In fact, if you find it helpful to do so, you might imagine that you are watching an oddly assorted procession going by, which has little, if any, personal meaning to you. As each one crosses your mind, say, my thought about blank does not mean anything. My thought about a mirror does not mean anything. Today's thought can obviously serve for any thought that distresses you at any time. In addition, 5 practice periods are recommended, each involving no more than a minute or so of mind searching. It is not recommended that this time period be extended, and it should be reduced to half a minute or less if you experience discomfort. Remember, however, to repeat the idea slowly before applying it specifically, and also to add, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. Well, I have not had any discomfort practicing these lessons this time around. I can't remember the first time I did it if I did feel any discomfort, but I'm glad that the only thing that is important is practicing it and not believing or understanding it, because it is hard to understand.
Yeah, I believe it all, but I don't necessarily understand hardly any of it, but I do believe it. Okay. Shall I go on to the next one? 11?
I think Ardith has her hand raised.
Oh, Ardith, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Instead of usually just butting in, I actually did the thing. I raised my hand. Now I completely forgot what I was going to say. I'm with Peter. It's escaped me. If it comes back, it was to do with what we were just talking about. Actually, where we find our. Oh, I know what it was. It was the course always tells us that this is unlearning. And I try to think of it that way, because then I don't get myself all upset. I realize that this is a whole mindset, and it's not going to go away tomorrow. But if I'm patient and just do the things, it will eventually kind of erode, I guess. And also that understanding, I hook up with knowledge, which, unless I'm mistaken, somebody who's more into the course and knows the background on this, understanding kind of fits in with knowledge, which we can't have in this illusion that we're in. So we can't expect that we're going to be able to understand it. The best we can do is unlearn it, I guess, and through our experiences, the evidence piles up, I guess you'd say. Anyway,
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I will go on to lesson 11. So, Keith, would you like to read?
I'd be glad to. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. This is the first idea we have had that is related to a major phase of the correction process, a reversal of the thinking of the world. It seems as if the world determines what you perceive. Today's idea introduces the concept that your thoughts determine the world you see. Be glad indeed to practice the idea in its initial form, for in this idea is your release made sure. The key to forgiveness lies in it.
I'll read the next one. The practice periods for today's idea are to be undertaken somewhat differently from the previous ones. Begin with your eyes closed and repeat the idea slowly to yourself. Then open your eyes and look about, near and far, up and down, anywhere. During the minute or so to be spent in using the idea, merely repeat it to yourself, being sure to do so without haste and with no sense of urgency or effort. Peter, do you want to continue?
To do these exercises for maximum benefit, the eyes should move from one thing to another fairly rapidly, since they should not linger on anything in particular. These words, however, should be used in an unhurried, even leisurely fashion. The introduction to this idea in particular should be practiced as casually as possible. It contains the foundation for the peace, relaxation, and freedom from worry that we are trying to achieve. On concluding the exercises, close your eyes and repeat the idea once more slowly to yourself.
Go ahead and finish up, if you would.
3 practice periods today will probably be sufficient. However, if there is little or no uneasiness and an inclination to do more, as many as 5 may be undertaken. More than this is not recommended.
I'm curious if any of you are having an easier time doing the practice periods during the day, because when I first started doing the course, the first year I did it, I could never remember. I mean, not only could I not remember to do it, I couldn't remember what the lesson was. If I didn't carry around, you know, a little sheet that said what it was, something to remind me, you know, it's like my ego just blew it off all day long. So I'm really grateful, number one, for the technology of my Apple Watch and my Apple phone, having the app that reminds me, and my watch buzzes, you know, at the top of the hour and then I can look down and at least see what the lesson for the day is, and then remember to practice as many times as it says to do it each day. So I'm really grateful for that. But how are all of the rest of you experiencing practicing it? Do you remember to practice it?
I use my phone like you.
Yeah. So Andrew, your hand is up.
Yes, I would agree that it's easier this time around, but I have a lot less going on in my life now. I'm retired, and I'm just not as many distractions as I used to have. So it is easier for me. I don't use a reminder like a timer or anything like that, but you know, 3, 4, or 5 times a day is easy enough to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Johanna?
I find that I become so impatient. Even reading the instructions will just irk me. So I just gloss over it. And then, yeah, I know that. I've read it so many times. I think I've done the workbook maybe 15 or 16 times, not in consecutive years. The last couple, perhaps 6 or 7 years, I've done it every year. But before that, I would skip a year or skip 2 years. Anyway, and so I tell myself, oh, I know this, I remember that, but that's not true. I think I'm trying to make up for not doing it 3 to 5 times by doing it every consecutive year. So it all adds up to 5 or 7. Anyway, no, that's just poking fun at it. But I have a hard time doing it exactly as it says it should be done. And I'm comforted by hearing Judy Scotch explaining or telling the story at one of the Zoom meetings that I was present at. And she had a friend who was a priest, like an old man who had the time to himself. And she would occasionally speak to him, and he would share his experiences with the course, and always very interesting conversations. And then at one point he confided in her, or he confessed to her that he wasn't always able to do exactly as the instructions told him. He wasn't always able. And while Judy was telling the story, she burst out laughing, because she said, I don't know anyone who's ever been able to do a full year and be consistent in each and every stipulation. And I thought, oh, thank heaven, I'm not alone.
And she used to say she was in the slow learners group.
She was in the slow learners group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I'm in that group too.
Yeah, it's a big group.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be trying. But then should is not good. Should is that calls forth rebellion. So it's a balance. Taking myself by the hand and prodding myself, but not too much, because if I do that, I'll start rebelling and I'll just put it aside. So it's a gentle balance, I would say.
And I think that's what Jesus wants, is that gentle balance, personally.
Yeah, perhaps so. Yeah, perhaps he knows we're not going to be able to do it 365 days of the year perfectly. Yeah, he knows we can't.
Yeah. Ardith.
Well, I think if he had done it today, he probably would have just said, put it on your Apple Watch or whatever it is. But since it was done back in the old 70s when there was nothing, I think I agree with Johanna that it's not an expectation. I would say he probably believes it as a hope, because I have to remember that even though they're very explicit instructions about how to do this is for me. It's for us. It's for the one, all of us. It's not I don't know. I think however much we want to give to it, that's what we will get from it. And I think the encouragement is these are the steps that you should take in order to facilitate the quicker learning. It's an understanding that it is an individualized course, and each one will approach it differently. And, along that line, I have to go. Somebody's knocking on my door, so go ahead, folks.
Okay, we'll look forward to you coming back. So, Maggie?
Yeah, I was going to say, Sharon, that I definitely can relate to what you were saying. The first time I did it, I remember struggling often to remember what the lesson was of the day. And it occurred to me I could write it down and carry it around with me, but it was almost like I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be able to remember it. And I would frequently find myself at work really racking my brain, like, come on, you just read it this morning. What was the title of the lesson even? And there'd be times I just could not summon it up. But I would take it as, okay, that was my practice for today. Even just the fact that part of me wanted to remember, right? I think that that's something. And I wouldn't, I've heard some people say they do it again the next day if they didn't do it right. So I didn't do that to myself. I would just move on. Okay, I couldn't remember it that day. I guess that was my practice. And now whatever one we're on to now. And I mean, I took a full 2 years the first time I did it, because I took days off and even weeks off at a time when I just felt like I didn't want to. And then the second time I already described to you all, I was doing it with the Ken books, and that was a different experience. It was a different time in my life. I had more time for it. I was very focused on it, and that was a wonderful experience too. But both of those times, I was not in any kind of community at all. It was very much just a self-study. I had this book. My husband had it too, and I would talk to him about it, but we didn't know anybody outside of each other that knew what this was, and nobody that I ventured to explain it to at all. So it was a very personal experience. Now this year, I'm getting to have this totally different experience where I'm in community with all of you here, and we're going over them like this, but then I'm also in community with folks that are doing them daily and just kind of sending a little message to say, I did it today, just to kind of encourage each other. And it's such a different experience. It's impossible to forget it this time around because I have so many people reminding me. And as I monitor social media for the foundation and make sure that our daily lesson posts go up, it's like it's back in my head again when I check there. So it's just interesting to get to have these very different experiences with it. I don't think that any one of them has been more beneficial than the others, right? So I just like that. I think Ardith was saying it, right? We can all have our own personal experience with it, and it can be very beneficial no matter which way you're doing it.
Right. Chaz.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, good. You know, I think it's the text. It says something like, I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's something like the Holy Spirit's voice is as loud as my willingness to hear it. It's something like that. And for myself, I just imagine myself sitting in the cinema with Jesus, watching Chaz's complete resistance, complete lack of, I don't want the lesson, I don't want to remember, you know what I mean? That's my resistance. And I'm so grateful for you and for, low tech, which I call Post-it notes, and high tech, my phone. These tools help me, but it's that underlying lack of willingness that I ask, that I bring that darkness to the light, because it's my resistance and my whatever. And in the lesson this morning, and I don't mean to jump ahead, but I saw again how I had like a new fresh layer of resistance in the lesson this morning. So I'm so glad that I was invited to join this group. So thank you.
You're welcome. We're glad to have you, Chaz. Susan.
Hi, gang. So this is my first time through the book. Well, first time starting on week 1, let's put it that way. And I have a newcomer kind of funny story. So I'm going to see, can you see this? I don't know. Can you see what I'm pointing at?
Well, yes, we can see a page with blue writing and red writing.
Yeah. So what I did was each day on each lesson, I wrote down the specific instructions that you were supposed to do that day. And what I didn't know was that you're not supposed to keep doing, start from 1. So like by day 9, I was going back, starting with day 1, doing day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then adding 9. So those first 9 lessons, I did like lesson 1 9 times.
Yeah.
Like 9 days in a row. I was like piling them all up because I didn't know you could the whole idea is just do that lesson for that day. I thought we were supposed to, so I had a heavy immersion in the lessons because of that.
Yeah.
But then I realized, whoa, this is not sustainable. What's going to happen on day 200? So I just wanted to share that was my newcomer mistake and misunderstanding.
Yeah, actually, the course, there's only one real instruction, I think, in the whole course, and that is that you don't do more than 1 lesson a day.
That I knew,
it's
like
really
going forward, but I didn't know from the practice that we weren't supposed to practice more than 1 a day. So I never allowed myself to read ahead, but I was reiterating the prior day's lessons.
Yeah.
Over and over. So it's just kind of a funny thing, but.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Ardith?
Yeah, I don't think I don't think it's harmful to read the lessons over. I think it's the doing, because a lot of times we'll go and refer back to the lessons on a specific day and maybe even meditate on a particular issue or sentence, but it's at the actual doing of the lessons, because that's for us to get ourselves in the groove, I guess, And anyway, that's my feeling about it. I had at the beginning when I was starting the course, I remember what I did was I was so busy, and I just for a while there I would wait at the end of the day. I would just do all my practice periods one right after the other. So I'd sit there, like each 1 minute or 2 minutes or whatever it was, and just go bing, 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 bing. I said, okay, I did them all. And I didn't exceed the one a day, but I did them all compact. That is how I explained it to myself. Of course, it evened out after a while, but I think in a sense, if that makes you, whatever it is that makes you feel calm about doing these, if you feel that you're pressuring yourself beyond what you can do what you can do. I know we don't specifically get that permission, but I get that feeling, because it's not supposed to be something that turns us away from the unlearning. It's supposed to bring us in. So anyway, without being too easy on ourselves, but still, that don't beat ourselves up over it. In other words, do what we can. That's my feeling about it. Thank you.
I agree. Well, I know we're almost at the top of the hour and we didn't get to lesson 12 or 13 or 14. Does anyone have anything in any of these last 3 lessons that particularly struck you or caused concern or caused joy that you want to share?
Keith's hand is still up.
Keith's hand. Oh, hi, Keith. But you're muted, Keith.
Hello. So my point is more about many of the previous comments. And I have the question to the group of, do you think the effectiveness of doing the workbook lessons is proportionate to the effort we put into it? And part of the reason I bring it up is the course never uses the word proportionate. Often I get the feeling that it's talking about it, but it never says it directly. But anyway, thoughts of others.
What was your initial question?
Is the effectiveness of the course proportionate to the effort we put into it?
That's a good question.
Wasn't Chaz addressing that in a comment earlier?
What was it? Don't remember.
I don't know if Chaz is still available.
For me, it's willingness. It's not effort. It's not the time or the structure or the form. For me, it's the willingness.
Yeah, I agree. For me. And then Susan did, oh no. Okay, Maggie, I just want to say, Keith, when your hand is up, I can't, because it's yellow and on your purple background, I can't see your hand. So okay. I'm glad Johanna realized you had your hand up. So Maggie.
Yeah, I was just going to echo what Chaz was saying about willingness, or I think of it too, about how much I want it, like how much I desire it. I know there's that quote, when you want only love, you'll see nothing else. Right. So there really is, like, how much does my little heart really desire it? I guess it is part of it, I think. And I am going to run right now to prepare for a client, but thank you all. It was so nice to be here with you.
Thank you. Yay. Okay. Yeah, we are at the top of the hour, and I want to say I appreciate all of you being with me.
Could you unshare? Sharon, could you unshare?
Oh, yes. Stop share. There we go.
Thank you.
Yeah. So anyone have any last parting thoughts? I appreciate you all so much and so glad you're with me on this journey. Namaste.
Sharon, I want to thank you for hosting. I so enjoyed your hosting. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Me too. Me too.
Well, I appreciate you all, and wish I was better at the technology part of it. But
don't we all?
Yeah.
It went wonderfully. It went wonderfully. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Well, it was a joy to do, and I loved getting ready for it. And it was just wonderful.
I loved your opening.
Oh,
Your
Yeah.
opening was beautiful.
The opening was
yeah.
beautiful.
thank you, thank you.
Can you share that on the page?
Yes, oh, wait a minute, let me see.
On the Facebook page?
Yeah, if you, Sharon, if you mail it to me, I'll add it as a comment.
Okay, great. I will do that. I will do
Thank
that.
you. Yeah.
So thank you all. I appreciate you
you.
being here, and we'll see you
Thank
all
you.
next week.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.